It was smooth sailing. It was smooth sailing. She tapped her foot and she went unclear of herself. She didn't understand herself too much because she was always searching for something to get into. She was disrupted of all her love. She was falling short of smoking shorts and longs and things that probably provoked her mind to breathe again. She was like a fairy tale of her own mind, and she was invisible, and she moved so fast it was slower. She gave it a thought again, and she looked down into her hand. She was moving her foot aside. She said, "How come do you take so much time of me and I am not with me?" I dazed and I tried again to look into my palm, and I saw nothing but my redness, of my pinkish, of my orange, of my translucent blur. It was like it was swifter. It was swifter, and nobody understood how swift the swiftiest was. How daring of you to move so swiftly. And side to side you rock as if you're cold of a winter breeze. And it was snowing and it was icing and it was melting on your skin and it was stuck and then it drenched. It was a double of take, really. She tried to look again and she could not dare. She dared too much. She was just playful and like a deer or a yoke of a bird falling from a tree that landed straight on its feet and just bounced a tad and then repeated to walk like that. It was funny because that's how funny it was. She was like a child and she dared to step boldly to precede her morning. She wasn't lost because she knew where she fell from and how far she had walked from talking to herself with numbers and things that she felt along and off, like grains of gain. She was off like something that was written in Chinese, and she could not spell her name so, but she dared to think of a symbol that reminded her of herself, of minding herself. She was mindful. I think she was too much of herself, but that was in God's nature to have built so much strength from muscle of nothing but bone. I think she was tempting herself now because she started racing and the volume of everything around her had picked up and roared. She was daydreaming again. She was like, I ought to act and I ought to act right, but I'm going to stumble and I'm going to fall sometimes. So I'll pick up where I left off. So she picked up where she left off, and then she was daydreaming of something she could not find from herself of a true eye to sculpt out an eye that could not be seen. She was daring. Damn. She was not even daring of herself to not realize her self love, but it was traumatic that she dreaded to find herself completely. She was dreadful of her disease of love. A love there was a disease to try, like poison or something that was sweet. It was terrible because you might overeat yourself indulgence of, let's see, indulgence. So she tried again. She was pulling at something like a towel, but it was a big leaf. She was trying to yank one of the leaves from the stem. And then, for some reason, she fell back. And she said, "Oh, you must not be my plant. I will not take you home and water you." So she kept on moving about, and then she found one that finally loosened, and it snatched off with a slash, and it was off of its tail from the stem. So it was beautiful. That was so beautiful that he had not realized that she had been staring at him. And then she said, "Okay, well, it happens, doesn't it?" Well, it might. She loved so much of his breeze because it was sincere and it was all of him. It wasn't nothing drenched off to possess someone to love them better. She was so in love. "I dare not look at you." "Oh no, why don't you dare not look at me? Look up, please." She said, "Remember me somehow different." And she said things in his ear. And then she rocked to him like she was not even on a stiffer of drags. It wasn't like a gun. It wasn't like a gun. He was so beautiful. I think he knew no better. But he was so beautiful, and she saw him so clearly. He smiled underneath his hair that drenched his face like some type of weed that was disastrous of a comb. So I think she drawed back to herself. She repeated in her head, and she was so happy. She had a whole melody to something she could not really take in. So she was so drenched. I think it was something that she had not said and he had not did. And then they were both confused. So they were both switched over and it hit dramatically. She lingered. She lingered so much she could not see herself right again. And then she fell off. And it was like she walked over it. "I think she's crazy in love," he said already. "I must go. I must go. I think she's crazy in love." He had his own tune, and he spoke it underneath his breath. She had his own tune, and she spoke it underneath her breath. I don't know what that was. She said too much. "I think I'm okay finding myself clearly of myself." So they both laughed. They both laughed, and they weren't too sure of why they felt the same way about each other too quickly to have even endured it to last longer. They were scared. They were scared. And from there, they were utter things that they could not think of. And I think she thought too much of herself that she was crazy in love. She was crazy in love. It was crazy in love. All right. Fucking bitch. Nah, he's all good. Probably find him another little thing to be with him. I'm so happy if that's what it is. I just wanted to see his crazy ass. See how he looks like a man now. I grew up. Got his gains. And he could tell me something good. What happened to you, baby? Why aren't you just... Well, yes, I took a break. And that's what I did. I wanted to. I mean, there's so much things that be bothering me anyway, so I don't know. You know how life gets anyway, man. Life is kind of crucial, especially at a young age. You're getting older too with age and where you place that. So, I love you so much. I try hard to be funny. I try hard to be funny. We got this too. Then I just chill after that. Then I just chill after that complex and use my it's getting out of it. Yeah, look. Alright. Oh, yeah. Battery. I think I do that better.